Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another very important and interesting topic. And today's topic of discussion is about planetary signification. As we all know that every planet signifies a particular area of our lives. So we'll be talking a little about that. Of course, when we read a chart, we look at it from all angles. We look at the placement of planets. We look at from the houses. Out of the 12 houses, all of these 12 houses signify a certain area of our lives, and the planets sitting in those houses. So that's how we make an analysis pretty much. But if we look at it purely from the point of view of a planet, what does that planet signify? What is the signification of that planet? So we are going to be talking a little on that, just to understand things a little clearer. So, which has been given to us, of course, by the ancient sages, and of course followed by the great scholars of astrology who have written books and their works on astrology in recent times, like until 1,000 years ago. So, what does the planet? Well, let's start with the planet Sun, which is called Ravi in Sanskrit. What does the planet Sun signify? Well, of course, it is the soul force, so it signifies the soul, and it signifies reputation as well. We know that the 10th house signifies reputation, but if you look at it purely from the point of signification of the planets, look at how Sun is placed in a birth chart, and if it's placed well enough, then of course it gives a boost to the reputation and the vitality and the father, which it signifies as well. So for father, as we know that the house is ninth house, so not necessarily if the ninth house is not well placed, but if the planet Sun is well placed, then of course we know that all the significations of the planet Sun will come in effect and will give good results. So that's kind of an example I'm giving you. So look at the planets and look at what the signification of the planets are, and you can base your analysis partly, not completely, of course. The completely, you have to look at the houses, the placement of the planets, the aspects, the strengths, all those things. But in general, Ravi or Sun signifies the soul, the reputation, one's own vitality, father, so on and so forth. The planet Moon, which is called Chandra in Sanskrit, represents the mind. So see how Chandra or Moon is placed, and it represents the mind. So the strength of the Moon is directly related to the strength of the mind. The strength of the Moon is directly related to the strength of the mother. How the mother is going to be, how the relationship with the mother is going to be, how the health of the mother is going to be, so on and so forth. And of course, some astrologers have mentioned that gems, which of course in the ancient days and ages used to be some kind of a precious commodity, which not all people had access to, unlike in today's times. So gems also, a person, whether kind of gems he wears and whether he has access to gems, whether he owns expensive gems or not, that is also a signification of the planet Moon, or Chandra as it's called in Sanskrit. As far as Mars is concerned, or Kuja as it's called in Sanskrit, the signification of Mars is land. So you can figure out whether a person owns land based on the planet Mars, without looking at the houses again. And also brothers. Mars signifies brothers. The strength of the body. So a lot of good wrestlers and bodybuilders, you will see they have a strong Mars, a very, very strong Mars in their birth charts. One example I can give is the great film star in India, Salman Khan. Look at his chart, you'll see Mars is beautifully placed. So without looking at the ascendant and the other areas, just look at the planet significations. So Mars signifies that. Mercury signifies intelligence. It's called Buddha in Sanskrit. So Buddhi means intelligence in Sanskrit. So there's a relationship there. So Mercury represents intelligence, speech as well. So one of the significations of Mercury is speech, other than intelligence. And of course, once again, I'm repeating, you can look at it from the point of view of houses, but here we're just looking at the signification of the planets. So regardless of what house they are placed, if they are well placed, then of course the speech of the person will be good, and the intelligence will be good as well. Uncles, and it could be either maternal or paternal uncles, are also represented or signified, or one of the significations of Mercury rather is uncles as well. Jupiter, when you come to the planet Jupiter, it's a Putra Karaka, so sons. If Jupiter is well placed, sons, it represents sons. And this day and age, it doesn't matter whether it's a son or a daughter, but in the ancient times they used to mention son. This day and age, we can kind of translate it to children if you want to. Also knowledge. So the planet Jupiter signifies knowledge and even wealth. So regardless of looking at the house of wealth, if Jupiter is well placed, you can somehow get understanding in your chart analysis that the person is endowed with some kind of wealth and some kind of knowledge as well, which is a higher intelligence. It could be a spiritual knowledge, it could be spiritual development, it could be higher education. The real wealth is knowledge, of course, as we know. The planet Venus, what does it signify? It signifies love, which is called Kama in Sanskrit. So look at the placement of Venus, and it signifies wife and also spouse. So it could signify wife in a man's chart, and it could signify husband in a woman's chart. So the placement of Shukra is going to give you an indication of that. Also luxuries and sensual pleasures and all kinds of earthly pleasures, as you say, nice surroundings, beautiful surroundings, perfumes, good clothes, going to good vacations, or living in luxurious surroundings, having music around them, having good fragrances around them, so on and so forth. That's a signification of the planet Venus. Shani or Saturn is about longevity. So for longevity, of course we have houses specified for longevity, but again, look at the placement of Saturn. Look at the strength of Saturn. Look at whether it's a benefic in a chart or not, and that will give you an idea about a longevity of a person and the kind of death he probably will have, whether he'll have diseases or not, because diseases is also signified by the planet Saturn. Rahu as a planet signifies the maternal grandfather, and also it is also called in Sanskrit as a Vishakaraka, or the significator of poison. So what kind of poison? It could be just a physical poison. So there could be several kinds of poisons in our lives, all kinds of poisonous influences that affect not just our bodies but our souls and our spirits and our emotional health as well. So Rahu has been called as a Vishakaraka, or the significator of poison. So all kinds of poisons which we are experiencing in this life are signified by the planet Rahu. And once again, maternal grandfather signifies Rahu. So a Rahu may be well placed in a birth chart, which means, well, good influence by the maternal father. That's how it's interpreted. And the other way around, or vice versa, if it's not well placed. Ketu is the paternal grandfather. So look at the position of Ketu, and you'll get an idea of the kind of lineage you had from your paternal grandfather through Ketu and the maternal grandfather through the planet Rahu. So other than the influencing factor, look at the lineage factor as well, as to what kind of is it a strong lineage, weak lineage, what kind of problems they've had. You can get an idea when you look at the significators, or the significations of the planets rather. So this was a little discussion on the significations of planets. However, I'll add to my video here that the sage Gemini has given his own thought on significations through his sutras, the Gemini Sutras. And what I just discussed here is significations as a crux given to us by the sages and the scholars who did research on these works by the sages. Maybe slightly, I wouldn't say different, but maybe a little deviated from what I just explained. Like, of course, there's a consensus on moon as being a matrukaraka, means a mother. Moon is the signification of a mother, and the mind. So there's no confusion in that. It's a general consensus. Say Gemini also confirms that through one of his sutras, that yes, the mother and the mind is signified by the planet moon. As far as Kuja or Mars is concerned, he's also mentioned that yes, it is Mars signifies brothers, but at the same time he has also mentioned that Mars gives an idea of the sisters as well. So not just brothers, it could be sisters. He has also said in one of the sutras that it could be signifying brother-in-laws as well. And one addition is stepmothers. So that's in one of the sutras. It has been interpreted by a few scholars that yes, Mars as a planet will signify stepmothers as well, along with the brothers, where there's general consensus, but then added sisters as well and brother-in-laws as well here. So there's a slight deviation here. I wouldn't say it's non-consensus, but yes, in say Gemini, in certain sutras. Say Gemini also in one of the sutras has mentioned that through Mercury one should certain details related to maternal uncles and maternal aunts. So uncles and aunts from the maternal side and all the other maternal relations or relatives should be seen from the planet Mercury. And the very clear-cut sutra which he has, which of course is in consensus with what we just discussed as a general crux which we discussed about the signification of the planets, but I just wanted to highlight this particular sutras. It's this particular sutra given by say Gemini, that very clearly Mercury directly related to maternal uncles, maternal aunts, and other relations from the maternal sides, the relatives from the maternal side. So that's another thing. Also, we discuss the paternal grandfather as a planet Ketu in our earlier discussion just a few minutes ago, but here say Gemini in one of his sutras has very clearly mentioned that consider both the paternal grandmother and the paternal grandfather through the planet Jupiter. So look at Jupiter, how the placement is, and then you get an idea of your paternal grandmother, your paternal grandfather, and the paternal grandmother both. So that also, of course, has to be taken into consideration. He has also mentioned very clearly that the husband and children also has to be ascertained from the planet Jupiter, and that's very clearly mentioned in his sutra. So Jupiter's signification is paternal grandmother, paternal grandfather, husband. So in a wife's chart, it will be husband and children. So very clearly mentioned through one of the sutras. Because I try to, whatever discussion we do in my videos, it has a relationship, is coming not from a figment of somebody's imagination or my own thought process. It is definitely substantiated by the ancient scriptures in all my videos, if you see. So I try to stick to that as well, and that's why I keep bringing the names of these sages, because that's more authentic than some of the recent works done by recent astrologers who put in their own thought process. Not that they're wrong, but it's always better to go into the basics. Also, in one of the sutras, Sage Gemini has mentioned that the planet Venus signifies not just the wife, but the parents of the wives as well, which means the parents-in-laws, and the paternal aunts. So the paternal aunts have to be considered from the planet Venus. He's very clear. And he's also saying that the maternal grandfather and grandmother has to be looked from the planet Venus. Just like he mentioned in one of the sutras that the paternal grandmother and grandfather has to be looked from the planet Jupiter, he's saying in another sutra that the maternal grandfather and grandmother has to be looked from the planet Venus. So there's a slight deviation there, because we had discussed that the maternal grandfather, earlier we had discussed that the maternal grandfather has to be looked from the planet Venus. But here in one of the sutras, Sage Gemini is mentioning that the maternal grandfather and the maternal grandmother both have to be looked from the planet Venus. So like I said, there is a general consensus on the significations, but this may be slight deviations. But I brought to your attention various sutras given to us by the great Sage Gemini. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. In the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic very soon. Goodbye.